Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the last episode. If you're one of those people, I hope you enjoyed the conversation and thanks so much for coming back. But for everyone out there who's new to the show, welcome. Feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer, soda, water, coffee in the fridge. Cheers to everyone out there on the internet. So the interesting thing, what I want to ask about is, I know a lot of bands that kind of had a start outside of scenes like the Oakland scene. So they have an idea of like how the music scene works outside of the Oakland scene, because those scenes can be really like insular. And I think that it could be weird, kind of like, what do you do after that? Right. Because sometimes those shows can be really, really awesome. I mean, a lot of the people aren't there to necessarily listen to your band, but there's people there, and it's maybe you'll loop some of them in, right? But like after this, like, okay, we're going to leave this nest, but we want to continue as a band. Like, how do you do that? And then even worse, how do you do that in 2020? It was probably a really unfortunate time for a lot of things to happen with you guys, right?
Yeah. So, well, in 2018 and 2019, we did this festival called Ian's Fest. I don't know if you had heard of it. But basically, we just applied and we got a spot. And the festival was great. We did it for 2 years in a row. But I think what was even better about that experience was we met a lot of bands and a lot of people in the scene outside of South O basement shows. And so with those bands that we met, that's how we were sort of able to break out, because then we could actually start scheduling shows at venues with other bands. So
yeah. I think that it can be sometimes a little intimidating to reach outside of like your comfort zone as a band and trying to find like shows, who to hit up. I think that it's like a much bigger hurdle than a lot of people put an emphasis on. But it's weird because like everybody's always looking for new bands for shows and new bands to play with, but simultaneously there's always this feeling that like nobody wants to talk to me. Like, who am I?
Right.
That's a strange thing.
It is a tough like field to navigate, because everybody wants to play shows, right? But who's going to schedule them? Who do you want to play with? Sometimes we play shows and it's with a band that we were like, we're never going to play with them again. No hard feelings, but didn't work out. But then there are other bands that you meet that are fantastic and you want to keep playing with them. So I think it's all that you have to learn just by doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nathaniel, Robbie, and I talk about this a lot, where it's like one of the hardest parts about when you go to a show is like, all right, we got to walk around, we got to talk to the bands, we got to kind of introduce ourselves, we got to talk about what we're doing, maybe things that we got coming up. And it's always super awkward at first. Like, I think, you're walking up to the band, they're at the little table and they're just kind of in their own little bubble. But we've definitely noticed that it pays off big time. That when you introduce yourself, they almost seem like, oh, thank God someone's kind of breaking the ice with that. And then we kind of start to develop our network. And we've noticed like on social media, bands kind of reaching out to us, or even just like we post a picture from a show and bands that played 3 shows ago with us being like, hey, that looks great. Like, nice job. You know what I mean? Just kind of building that network just through the little kind of hard, awkward things.
Right. Yeah, I think that no matter what, communication is one of the most important things. Sometimes it's more important than like your music even being good. There's been bands throughout the years that we've played shows with, and I'm like, I don't want to be rude, but this band is dog shit. But they are so fucking fun to hang out with. Yeah. I'll play another show with them. I do not care.
Yeah. And they show up ready.
Yeah.
They show up like they're kind of like, professional in the sense that like, oh, that band was there on time. They had their act together. They rolled up with the crowd, and they were just cool to hang out with.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. And like something being air quote dog shit, right, is very subjective, because sometimes say it's just a new band. Like they need that stage time to get better at what they're doing. And if you can kind of see something there, it's helpful to facilitate that. I play in a heavy metal band, and sometimes people in that community can be, for the most part, they're pretty nice, but I'm sure this happens in any genre of music. Sometimes there are some people, usually in bands, not like people that just go to shows, but other people in bands like, fuck that band, they suck or whatever. It's just like, but they're really cool and they bring people and they're really nice. It's like not everything needs to be the most brutal, scary, like fit into the box of what you think like a heavy metal show should look like.
Yeah,
But
it's definitely an important quality to, I guess, just maintain your band etiquette
Right.
at shows. I think that's really important. We were talking about this the other day, which we have, 3 rules?
Yep. Yeah.
Show up on time, like, at the call time. Play the amount of time that you were allotted. Don't go over your set, please.
It's a big one. That's a big one.
And also the most important, I guess, as important as like introducing yourself to other bands is stay for the whole show, like as much as you can.
Stay for the other bands.
Stay for the other bands, like because you don't know what you're going to learn when you watch other bands, who you're going to meet. So
Right.
I think that's really important.
Might make a really great connection that you need in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I think that there's a lot to learn from being at shows and like even watching either bands that you discover, you're like, wow, this is great. I'm glad that I stayed and, didn't worry about getting the Taco Bell before the drive-thru closed or whatever drama makes somebody leave a show, right? Or sometimes you might just see a band that doesn't quite have it yet, but you're noticing that something that they're doing on stage that's kind of dumb is something that you do too. And you're like, oh shit, like maybe I need to stop doing that. I didn't realize how silly this is.
Yeah.
Do you ever like videotape your sets and watch them?
I tried to
we
like
try.
whoever goes to the show, I'm like, hey, can you get like something,
There's always a problem with that lighting or something, and we just never quite get it.
Yeah. I do remember that last basement show that we played, that was just terrible because nobody showed up and it was an awful night. I set up my field recorder in the corner of the room just to hear the audio to listen back to, and that was a very humbling moment, I think, for all of us. We were like, okay, let's fix some things. Just based on the audio, not even the visuals.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things that I think, for one, a lot of people, I think for a very long time, nobody really had access to just like technology where they could just put something in the corner of a room. But now, like most cell phones will record okay enough audio that you can tell if you played a good set or not.
Right.
For sure.
So,
Yeah.
Why not just set that thing, behind your guitar cab before a show and see what happens?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like content, it's like we're not posting this on Instagram or anything. It's like just actually like an archive, something to review and see what you're actually doing, because like your friends that come out to see you aren't going to be like, yo, like your rhythm section's off. They don't know. It's like the color correction thing that we were talking about at the beginning of this episode. Nobody's going to say that to me.
Right. Yeah, no one's going to be like, hey, on the bridge of this song, you were like kind of late coming into that. Yeah, but we definitely would like agonize over those things.
Yeah.
We started to do a lot of like in our own little studio space, doing like live versions of songs, then posting onto our YouTube page. And I think we've learned a lot just from that experience, because what we sound like in our head usually is pretty close to what we sound like actually, but then we're like, ooh, this
We need
spot
to run
here.
a metronome over that spot.
Yeah,
over and over
big
and over
time,
again.
big time. So kind of like the same thing with playing live. Like you learn so much just from watching the tape, so to speak.
Yeah. There's a lot, I think, that goes into just putting a song together that people unfortunately don't always see. And I guess that's just kind of like the curse of any art, right? Like nobody knows how many times or how many brush strokes it took to finish whatever fantastic painting, and nobody knows how many hours you spent looping over some weird progression in a 10-second part of a song so you could all get it completely right. But and I think that it's really important as a band. It's like weird because as entertainers, you want to provide for the audience, and a lot of times the crowd's not going to know the difference between like if that's a little bit off or not.
Right.
But also you all want to have a good time on stage and playing, and you have that experience of just knowing that you're in a room with other people that are willing to like put in that work to make it that extra better. That's not the right. Make it that extra better. Little flash that on the screen. Yeah.
Write that down.
You understand what I'm saying though. And that's cool. It seems like there's a really good gelling of minds and creative interest and passion and drive going on here. It seems like everybody really digs it.
Yeah.
You like what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes, we do.